The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Virginia. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Kiara Profena. Together we take you on some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today we're diving into the world of adaptive outdoor recreation with Adventures Without Limits, a nonprofit that's been breaking down barriers to the outdoors for 30 years. And joining us today is Anna Eick, Program Coordinator at Adventures Without Limits. Anna, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, Anna, well, maybe you could just start off by telling us a little bit about how long Adventures Without Limits has been around and what you all offer to the community.
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, we are celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. So we're hoping to have a big birthday party at the end of this summer. And we are based in Forest Grove, but we work throughout the Portland metro area and actually offer trips throughout Oregon. And we offer accessible and inclusive outdoor recreation. And our mission is to provide opportunity and adventure for all people, regardless of their ability levels, socioeconomic status, gender, ethnicity, or age. So when we were founded 30 years ago, our primary purpose was to serve people with disabilities. But throughout that time, we've found that a lot of the barriers that people with disabilities face also impact other communities throughout this area. And so we've kind of broadened our mission just to serve anybody who faces a barrier getting into the outdoors.
And just for people who are unfamiliar with Adventures Without Limits, can you tell us a little bit about what kind of programs you offer, what kind of trips you take people on?
Yeah, definitely. We offer trips year-round. So we're just wrapping up our winter season where we do snowshoeing and cross-country skiing on Mount Hood. And we're moving into our spring and summer season, which is a lot more water-based. So we have flat water kayaking, canoeing, and paddleboarding. And we also do whitewater rafting. In the summer, we'll also do camping and hiking and the occasional rock climbing trip.
Yeah, so you mentioned that this is for people who are facing different kinds of barriers. What exactly are we talking about? What kinds of barriers are people facing who are coming to you?
Yeah, great question. I'll expand. I'll kind of talk a little bit more about the types of trips we offer and then get more into that question. And so we offer trips that are partner trips. That's like 80% of what we do is working with other organizations. And so that could be Shriners Children's Hospital, where, these kids have medical disabilities that make it really difficult for them to access the outdoors with their families. Or we'll work with Hacienda CDC, which is an organization in Portland that provides housing and other opportunities to Latinx families. And so a lot of these folks don't maybe have the gear. They don't have the winter clothing to get out without joining a trip with us. We work with Oregon Spinal Cord Injury Connection. So a lot of these folks are using wheelchairs and face those physical disabilities. And then we also offer about 20% of our trips are community trips. And these are open enrollment trips that anybody can sign up for and join us on. And so I bring up those partner trips because I think that addresses a lot of the different barriers that we're seeing. And then we also see those same barriers happening on our community trips. So some of these are, just not having the outdoor gear needed, whether that's winter boots to go snowshoeing, the snowshoes themselves, going kayaking, trying to get a kayak and the permits to get on the water is a barrier. Transportation is a barrier for a lot of folks. And so we have vehicles, one of which has like a wheelchair lift, so we can address some of those physical disabilities as well. So we offer transportation to address barriers. We also try to address financial barriers by offering a sliding scale on all of our community trips. So we offer a certain number of lower price tickets, and we trust the people coming on those trips to select whatever ticket price they need in order to join us. We have different pieces of equipment to help address some of those different physical barriers to coming on trips, whether that's more trunk, head, and neck support to sit on a kayak or a raft, or maybe a special paddle so somebody can still paddle a kayak with only one hand. So I know that's a very broad, lengthy answer, but we're trying to address as many barriers as possible.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's a lot of kind of creative solutions that go into being able to give people access in all kinds of, disabilities or different kinds of barriers that they are, overcoming. So can you tell us a little bit about how you overcome barriers and what are some of the biggest challenges to overcoming them?
I like that you described it as a lot of creative problem solving, because that's definitely what it is. There's a lot of pieces of adaptive equipment, specifically thinking about physical disabilities. And these pieces of adaptive equipment are very hard to make like one size fits all, right? Everybody has like a very different body and everybody has very different needs. And so a lot of our solutions involve duct tape and foam and, maybe building up padding to support somebody sitting in a boat or sitting in a sit ski if they're coming on a winter trip with us. So we it's not very high tech. A lot of duct tape and foam goes a long way with making these trips possible. I would say biggest challenge, I think it's just that everybody, I guess the biggest challenge would be, and I want to frame this in a positive light, it's just that everybody is an individual, right? And everybody has individual needs. So one person with a spinal cord injury is going to have different needs than somebody else with a spinal cord injury. And so you can't just make assumptions based off of, working with somebody with a similar diagnosis before. And it's really just getting to know people. And I think a hard part is trying to chase down all that information prior to a trip. And having lots of conversations, figuring out lots of logistics with folks to make sure that we are prepared to address those needs once we're out in the field with these folks. So I would say it's a big challenge, but it's also like a privilege and a fun part of the job is trying to address all of these individual needs and barriers.
What I love about what you all are doing is the giving access to natural areas that I think those of us who are able-bodied and have the financial means seems like a very easy, a very accessible thing to like go on a trail or go out to the lake. But for folks, for very many different reasons, as you're explaining, that there's these barriers to even just getting out into nature. So I love that it's like, it sort of seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the spirit of your program is like, how can we get as many people as we can out into nature and enjoying these activities out there?
Yeah, I think that sums it up really well. We're trying to get as many people as we can, and we are a really small organization. We currently have an admin team of 3, but soon to be 4, which is exciting. And in the summer, we hire a bunch of guides for a short, like 3-month season, excuse me. But yeah, we are a small team trying to address a big problem. And so we definitely appreciate the support of our community, and we have lots of volunteers that also come on trips. And so it's definitely a community effort.
And I'm curious, what are some of the most popular, impactful programs that y'all run that you've kind of been on over the years?
Great question. Most of the trips that we offer are day trips. And, we talk a lot when we're interviewing and hiring guides. We ask the question of, what strategies would you use to connect with participants when you're only out with them for a few hours? But I think even those really short trips are really impactful for people, since for many of the people we work with, this is their first time getting in a kayak, getting on snowshoes. We work with kids from Portland who have not been on Mount Hood before, and they've lived in Portland their whole life. And so getting out in the snow in the winter is really exciting for them. I would also say our other really impactful trips is we do have some overnight camping trips. And I think maybe those feel more impactful to me personally, just because you are getting more time with that community, with those participants. And we partner with several different organizations. So I mentioned Shriners Children's Hospital. We do day trips with them, but we also do a camping trip with them in the summer. And that's just a big deal for those kids to be able to get out with their families and have, a camping experience that I think a lot of us would just take for granted and is really special for these families. Oregon Spinal Cord Injury Connection is another group we do camping trips with. And yeah, I think just like the opportunity to have multiple days together and be outdoors for that extended period of time, I would say makes those trips a little bit more impactful, but I don't want to take away from the value of our day trips as well.
One of the trips I saw that you did last year was a weekend of adaptive surfing. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about that? It seemed like such a cool experience.
So I personally wasn't on that trip, so I don't have a ton of details about it, but it was in partnership with an organization called AMP Surf. So surfing is not one of the outdoor activities that we at AWL normally offer, but sometimes we're able to offer these other unique trips in partnership with another organization. So AMP Surf specifically provides surfing for people with disabilities. And we partnered with them, and we were in charge of the camping aspect, since that was something that we have a lot of experience managing. And so it was a really cool partnership to be able to offer surfing and camping together.
It just seems so cool. I mean, like I love, looking at like the pictures and videos of like your whitewater rafting, seeing like, again, these creative solutions you're taking to getting people out there. And I've talked to people before who work with, people with disabilities in the outdoors. What I've heard from a lot of folks is like, just seeing someone out there shows like, oh yeah, it's possible. You can do this. Whether it's, you're a person with disabilities or not, like you get to see like, oh yeah, like there's a sit ski. Oh, there's a kayak you can fashion to make this available for anyone. So there's like that visibility portion seems really important for this kind of work.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree that the visibility is important. It's important that we're out there. Other forms of visibility, we're trying to post a lot on our social media, so folks can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Adventures Without Limits. And that's also, we're trying to use it as a tool for folks who are maybe thinking about coming on a trip with us to see what it looks like for somebody maybe with a similar barrier that they're facing to get out on a trip with us, and what kind of equipment we have, and what are snowshoes? That's a question we get a lot. Or what is a sit ski? So just those basic components of what are these pieces of equipment, and where are the places that we're going, and we're trying to use social media especially as a tool to get those images out there.
Yeah, and beyond your sort of community partnership trips that y'all go on, how many people do you get that are maybe repeat attendees or come to these trips, multiple seasons in, what do you think about the community building aspect of Adventures Without Limits?
Yeah, we definitely have folks who come over and over on these community trips. And that's really special. It's been interesting this winter because I think we've had an increase of people who haven't done trips with us before getting out. And so it's this cool mesh of people who know us really well on those community trips, meeting these new folks and almost being ambassadors for Adventures Without Limits for us, because they've had so many positive experiences on different trips with us. And a specific example that comes to mind, there's a mom and her son, her adult son, who has autism, and they've been doing trips with us for quite a few years. And I remember the very first rafting trip I did with these two. The son was like definitely nervous to be in a boat. had a hard time sitting down. He'd get excited in the rapids and stand up exactly when you don't want somebody to stand up. And now, like a couple years of doing rafting trips with us on these community trips, like he knows like when it's time to get down into the bottom of the boat through the rapids. And, he gets really excited when he gets splashed and just has a really overall positive experience. And so it's been really wonderful to see this family specifically trust us and see this individual grow in their outdoor experience.
Well, as we're talking to you, this is sort of like the first half of spring. I imagine you've got a lot of stuff coming up. What can you tell us about some upcoming spring and summer programs?
Totally. Spring is definitely, it's a shoulder season, and so it's a little bit hard. We don't have quite as many trips in the spring as we do winter and summer. But some trips we have coming up on April 19th, which is a Saturday. We have our first whitewater rafting trip of the season, and this is going to be on a section of the Sandy River that has like some class 2, 3 rapids. So it's a really good one if you haven't rafted before and maybe you're feeling a little nervous and want to start at kind of an easier level. This is a great one to start at. And we also provide, like I mentioned, a lot of the gear is a barrier for folks. So on these colder weather trips, we have wetsuits available, river shoes, splash tops, things to help keep people warm when we're on those like really cold river days. And then we also have coming up on May 10th, we have a Mother's Day kayak coming up. And this is open to anyone. You don't have to be a mom or have a mom, but it is Mother's Day weekend. And that will be out at Estacada Lake, which is just a really pretty spot if you haven't been out there before. In the summer, we'll have some camping trips coming up. Some more rafting and kayaking and paddleboarding. We try to do community trips at least once a month is kind of our average. We have 10 to 12 a year. And we have, another exciting trip we have coming up in August is we'll have a community multi-day Deschutes trip. So if you're interested in trying a multi-day rafting trip on the Deschutes River, that is a good place to start.
And so you mentioned that y'all are traveling kind of all over Oregon. What are some of the boundaries of where you go? And do you mostly start from the Portland metro area, taking people there?
Yeah, we start from the Portland metro area. We go kind of as far as Bend has kind of been our furthest. We'll go out to the Deschutes River, and then we've done some camping at Lapine State Park near Bend. And then we'll go along the coast as well. So we go down to South Beach. Trying to think, there's some other state parks along the coast that we take folks out on. We have a trip planned coming up in May that's like down in Eugene. So I would say we still kind of stay on like the northern half of Oregon, but it's still a pretty big spread of the state that we're taking people out in.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're unsure of whether or not they're a person who could, utilize your services, how do you know if you're someone who can go on these trips with Adventures Without Limits?
Yeah, that's a great question. On our website info page, we have a list of essential eligibility criteria. And there are some aspects where if people need one-on-one support, then they need to make sure to bring that person with them, because there are some kinds of support that our guides can't offer, like hygiene support and taking medications throughout the day. But our trips really are open to everyone, and we're happy to negotiate, a lower price or even waiving the ticket fee for a support person to come along on a trip if that's needed for that person.
And I can imagine for a lot of people going on these trips, it may be the first time they ever do something like rafting or experience snowshoeing. What are some of the biggest changes that you see in attendees just witnessing that firsthand?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the people coming on these trips, I think especially of some of the kids that we work with, some of the youth groups, they'll be pretty nervous and uncomfortable to begin with, right? It's hard to get out of your comfort zone. It's hard to do something new. If you have never been to Mount Hood and you don't know what a snowshoe is, and you got signed up for this trip and you're a kid and you're pretty unsure of what's going to happen, I could understand that being something that would be pretty nerve-wracking. So sometimes kids come up and they're nervous, they're uncomfortable, and it's really fun as we go through the instruction and we share details about what the day is going to look like, to see that discomfort kind of come off and see them warm up to the activity and realize oh, I am capable of snowshoeing, and yeah, it is a little harder than walking, but I figured it out, or I tripped and fell in the snow, but I figured out how to get up on my own in these snowshoes, and I'm not freezing to death because AWL packed me snow pants and a snow jacket, and so I have the warm gear that I need to be comfortable. And so it's really interesting because I feel like, especially coming off of these winter trips that are most fresh in my mind, the bus ride up will be pretty quiet. It's early in the morning. Kids are tired. Kids are nervous. And then at the end of the day on the way back, it's just full of chatter and talking about highlights from the day. And, oh my gosh, did you see that bird? And yeah, did you see the snowman that I built? And it's really rewarding just to see that change throughout the day.
Wow, I love that. It's so relatable to go outside, and you never know what you're going to expect when you go out there, but to come back and have that fresh experience. Do you feel like that these kinds of experiences spur people to continue to go out on trips with you, or to continue to go out on trips of their own? What is sort of the ideal, future path for people who go on these kinds of excursions with you?
Yeah, that's certainly our hope, that people would either come out on trips with us again or build the confidence and skills to be able to go out on their own. So we definitely do have people come out on our community trips who sometimes they're like, oh, I want to buy snowshoes, but I've never tried them. And so I'll come out on this trip with you so I can learn how to use them before I make that purchase. Or same with kayaking. Maybe I've never used a kayak or a canoe and I want to come out and try using that before I pursue buying that on my own. And so, yeah, I think the ultimate goal is that people would feel comfortable enough outdoors that they could go on their own. That's not the reality for everybody that we work with. And so we do get those people repeating on trips, and that's great. We love when people come out with us again. But my hope is certainly that people would feel that the outdoors are for them, they're for everyone, and that they're welcome in these spaces, and that they can build the skills and confidence to go out on their own if they want to.
And for people who are maybe interested in checking out Adventures Without Limits, what kind of advice would you give to someone who maybe feels that outdoors isn't necessarily for them, whether it's, financial, physical, or these confidence barriers? What would you tell them?
That's a great question. I think I would first acknowledge that a lot of who we see in the outdoors look like me, who is a white person with a lot of privilege and is able-bodied. But that doesn't mean that these spaces shouldn't be for everyone, for people who don't look like me. And I think I would say, it is uncomfortable to try something new. I think anything new that we try is going to be uncomfortable. And so taking that first step and being in that little bit of discomfort can open up a whole new world of possibilities. I know that sounds very cliche, but new opportunities and new ways to experience the world and build community and ultimately get out of the house and try something new.
That's great. And so what is the best way for people to sign up for trips or get involved volunteering or getting connected with you all?
So if you check out our website, which is awloutdoors.org, we have all of our information on there. And so we have a tab that has our community trips. And so that's a great way for people to sign up and join us on those kinds of trips. If people have specific needs or barriers they're worried about for our trips, I would say give us a call. You can find our phone number on our website as well. And we're happy to chat. And, sometimes that's easier than 10 emails back and forth, and just touching base and making sure that we can make this trip work as best as possible for every individual who wants to come on that trip. And then for volunteers, we offer a volunteer orientation. We require a volunteer orientation. And we offer that every spring and every fall. So the start of our summer season and the start of our winter season. So we have a volunteer orientation coming up on May 3rd that people can sign up for on our website if they're interested in joining our trips. And we just ask that volunteers have the outdoor skills to take care of themselves in whatever outdoor activity they're signing up for. So if you're signing up to volunteer for kayaking, you just need to be able to paddle yourself around. In that way, you're able to support other people and not take away the attention of the guide from the people on the trip that they're trying to support. We really appreciate our volunteers. We have volunteers who have been with us for many years and are really impactful in our programs. So if that's something that interests you, I definitely suggest signing up for that orientation on May 3rd. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. Something else I wanted to share as a way to connect with Adventures Without Limits in a little bit more of an indoor setting. We have our biggest fundraiser of the year coming up at the end of April 24th, 25th, and 26th. We are hosting the Banff Mountain Film Festival in Portland. And each night is a unique lineup of outdoor adventure films. And so the cost of the tickets for that to attend at Revolution Hall helps cover some of our programming. And it's also one of the most accessible showings of the film festival in the country, which we're very proud of. We have ASL interpreters, we have open captions on all the films, we have audio description, live audio description as well, and it's an ADA accessible building. So we really try to make it accessible for anybody and everybody who wants to come attend.
Amazing. Anna, thank you so much for all this information. Thanks for all you do. We really appreciate you coming out and talking with us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, folks, that will do it for us for today. Until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as HereIsOregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show, and if you want to support this podcast as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details at OregonLive.com/pod-support. Also, if you're a fan of the show and interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show is produced by me, alongside Jamie Hale and Vicky Connor.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.